Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our news for today. Prime Minister Wael al-Halaqi has opened Al-Madina Hospital and the touristic club for the workers in the electricity sector in Damascus. The Russian Foreign Ministry has announced that the talks between Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov and American Undersecretaries of State for the Armament Supervision Bureau Roz Hatemula and for International Security Affairs and the Prohibition of Nuclear Arms Proliferation Thomas Kantrim held in Moscow focused on the situation in Syria, including the continuation of the implementation of the agreements on putting chemical weapons in Syria under international supervision. In a statement, the ministry said that at the conclusion of the meeting, discussion covered the UN Secretary-General's vision regarding the formation of a joint mission comprising the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons Organization and the United Nations to get rid of the chemical weapons in Syria in a time that is both appropriate and safe. The ministry added that the Russian and American officials also exchanged viewpoints on dismantling the chemical weapons in Syria according to the formula proposed by Russia, the USA and the UN. Also taking part in the talks were Chief of the UN Secretary-General's Bureau, Susanna Malkora, and the Supreme Representative of the UN Disarmament Affairs, Angela Kane. The Syrian Arab Army units have eliminated armed terrorist groups and destroyed their weapons and ammunition in Qara, Yabrud Square and Al-Saqi Street in An-Nabak in Damascus suburbs. In Daraa countryside, army units targeted terrorist dens in Tel Smain, Al-Tayra, Al-Tafas, inflicting heavy losses upon them. Among the terrorists killed, the Saudi Abdullah al-Baykhi and the Jordanian Talal al-Ajrami. The Syrian Arab Army units have eliminated armed terrorist groups who tried to infiltrate into secure areas in Aleppo and attack citizens there. The army also destroyed several terrorist hideouts and gatherings in Aleppo countryside. An army unit has meanwhile killed all the members of a terrorist group in an ambush east of Al-Layramoun Mosque and destroyed their weapons and ammunition. Another army unit completely eliminated terrorist groups and destroyed their arms-loaded cars, missile launching podiums and mortar guns in 8 sites in Aleppo suburbs. The military source which reported this added that the army also demolished a terrorist hideout in Deir Jummal. Another army unit clashed with terrorists who tried to infiltrate into the ancient part of the city, killing 3 of them. The army also eliminated terrorists who had tried to attack people in Al-Suwaiqa neighborhood. Fierce clashes erupted between the Syrian Arab Army and armed groups near a military point in Al-Artiq Maghara area. The clashes lasted all night long, during which a number of terrorists were killed as others fled, leaving behind 6 rifles, hand grenades, BKC artillery and ammunition. Our armed forces have targeted terrorist gatherings in Al-Arba'in mountain and Saraqib, eliminating a number of them, some of whom were foreign nationals. Among the killed, head of the so-called the Revolutions Council in Saraqib and Milad al-Sheikh Deeb was identified. In Deir ez-Zor, army units imposed law and order on the routes connecting the main city with water crossings. The measure is taken to help citizens who were forced to flee their homes because of terrorist groups find safer places. The armed terrorists tried to block all the main entrances into the city and committed horrendous acts of theft and violence against ordinary citizens. Welcome back. In Iraq, 8 workers were killed and 7 others injured following the explosion of a terrorist device in Al-Hafriya, south of Baghdad. Iraqi troops yesterday captured a terrorist leader of the so-called Islamic State of Iraq and Asham, in addition to arresting 5 terrorists in al-Aranib town in Samarra. 5 other terrorists were killed and 8 others detained in the city of Babil. In occupied Palestine, 1 teenager was wounded and others wounded during clashes with occupation forces in the city of Jenin. Israeli occupation troops broke into the villages of Jalkmous and Deir Abu Daif east of Jenin. Dozens of citizens were arrested in different parts of the West Bank as many Palestinian houses were vandalized by Israeli army. Finally, Libyan Prime Minister Ali Zaidan acknowledged that his country was used as a base for carrying arms to a number of countries in the region. Zaidan said that arms are smuggled abroad by some terrorist groups, particularly Al-Qaeda, a thing that constitutes a grave security threat to Libya and to many other countries in the world. The UN voices concern over the spread of smuggled weapons east of the Mediterranean, especially in Syria, as well as Mali and parts of West Africa, as such spread strengthens the armed groups. According to UN Security Council report, Libya has become in the past 2 years a significant source of weapons, as shipments of illegal weapons were carried to 12 countries, mainly from the cities of Benghazi and Masrata. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Vani Genjan, but after a short break.
Good afternoon. The finance minister inspected a number of banks and the General Institution for Pensions and Salaries. He asserted that the banking sector has witnessed pressure, especially with the flock of citizens from different governorates. The bank workers asserted that they are fulfilling their work at the required pace, although they demanded more workers to keep up with the needs of the citizens. During the institution of the social insurance, the finance minister said that the amount allocated for the martyrs' families exceed 7 billion Syrian pounds every month, asserting the need to speed up the process of paying pensions. The Damascus Securities Exchange Index was stable during the last quarter of the year as it climbed 0.62% this week. Meanwhile, the total trading value reached about 11.8 million Syrian pounds in the last session, as the DSE index was up 3.18 points, as trading was distributed on 88 deals with a trading bulk that reached about 85,000 shares. The Director General of the Free Zone said that 14 industrialists who were affected by the incidents in Aleppo were given booths in the industrial zone in Latakia Governorate. He also added that this step would create new job opportunities and allow industrialists who were forced to go outside the homeland as a result of the current crisis to come back and take part in preparing the reconstruction stage. The Minister of Agriculture asserted that it is working to develop the marketing process both locally and internationally and support the Syrian farmers for marketing their crops of olive and citrus by targeting new markets and exporting the additional quantities of production. On the other hand, the total production of citrus for the season was estimated at 1,134 tons, and the total production of olive was estimated at 950,000 tons. Brent crude oil fluctuated as debt talks in the U.S. remained deadlocked, threatening a government default that could slow economic growth. Futures lost 0.3%. Brent for November settlement fell 15 cents to reach $110 a barrel. U.S. stocks fell, giving the Standard & Poor's 500 index its biggest two-day loss since June. European stocks also declined for a third day amid investor concern that the impasse over the US budget and debt limit may lead to a default. Japanese shares will extend a world-beating rally as surging corporate earnings resulted in higher wages, supporting shares that benefit from domestic spending. The Jewelers Assembly set the price of the 21-carat gold at 7,000 Syrian pounds per gram, while the Rashadi golden coin was set at 52,000 Syrian pounds and the English coin was set at 57,500 Syrian pounds. The dollar rose for a second day against the euro as the congressional standoff halted the release of economic data. The euro gained versus the yen before a report forecast to show German industrial production rebounded. With this, we conclude our news. Thank you for watching and goodbye.